Hello, Trojan fans. Welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast on a Tuesday. We moved it up this week. You got USC the spring game is coming up this weekend. We had an extra practice, and there's some breaking news. We got the, where's our breaking news thing? Where's it? Yeah. Sorry, a little slow on the dial there. Breaking news that USC has once again hired Kliff Kingsbury, this time as a senior offensive analyst. We're going to talk all about that with my partner, my pal, right over there sitting next to me, Chris Trevino. He is here in studio, and we are live on our YouTube simulcast. If you're watching us there, thank you very much. We appreciate that. You can put all your comments in the chat, and I'll do my best to get to all of those. And if you're listening on any of the podcasting platforms, that's awesome too. And we'll send in your voicemails, emails, all that stuff, and we'll try to get to everything you really want to talk about, of course. And our buddy Steve is in the chat right now. If you are watching live on YouTube, first of all, thank you. Second of all, smash that like button. Like the video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're creeping up there. I think we're getting close to 17,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So over at Inside Troy. So appreciate you watching over there, and it helps to grow the show. Of course, also helps when you any of the podcasting platforms that you're listening to the show on. If you can leave us a 5-star rating and review, if that's possible there. Like and subscribe wherever you want to do it. On the Apple Podcasting app, it says follow us, which is always great to do. So if you follow us over there, it's nice. It helps the little algorithm to kind of grow the show and get out there. I don't think we have any new, let me check real quick, any new reviews. But yeah, get over there, the Apple Podcasting app, if you have it on your iPhone or whatever, if you can leave us a 5-star review. That is always very appreciated. You can, take little shots at us. You can say something about the Composite 2-Star, which is a very popular podcast on our platform. And if you have any podcast questions, you can email us, podcast@uscfootball.com. Let us know which show your question's for, or you can call or text us at 424-254-9141. Phew, long intro there, Chris.
Yeah, I should have just left and came back. Got a bagel or something.
You could bring me treats, right? Oh, wait, do I have...
You said you put
wait, hold on.
I'm a little disappointed. There's no treat.
We got a drop. West Texas Mike sent a whole bunch of drops, so I got to go through a bunch of them. But we were playing some, and Chris laughed at that one, so I brought that one up there. No treats today. But you can bring treats too if you want.
Sure.
Oh, your girlfriend did give me a sprinkles cupcake. So
yeah, that's not a euphemism. That's an actual thing that happened. Before you had the intro, and I forgot what I was going to say. You moved the podcast because we were going on Thursday.
Yes.
Then you moved it to Tuesday, and you didn't tell me why you wanted to move to Tuesday. And then all of a sudden, Lincoln Riley hires Kliff Kingsbury on Monday. So my question is, what did you know, Ryan Abraham?
I got some info. I thought we need to move up the podcast a little bit. No, I had some crap going on later in the week, so I'm going to...
Should have just left it with the first thing.
Yeah. A little info on the Kliff Kingsbury information. Yeah, so the whole point of today's show was going to be we were going to talk about this open practice, which we're going to talk about. But then we get the Kliff Kingsbury news. We're going to get to all that. Before we do, I just want to thank our sponsor, Trader Joe's. Make sure you go over to TraderJoe's.com. Before you go shopping, it's a great little tool. They actually have a fun podcast. They're really short. They're under half an hour. Over there on the website right now, a lot of vegan stuff like the buffalo style chickenless wings. Not necessarily my thing, but whenever I've tried this stuff, it's pretty good. So if you want to go check those out, there's some different vegan recipes on there. There's also the everything ham and cheese roll-ups. I was looking at that. It looks pretty good. I like all the stuff because it's if you go over to some of their recipes on the site, Chris, it's not like long prep. It's not like a 5-hour deal or whatever. So it's kind of cool. You use some of the different ingredients you can get over at Trader Joe's and make something fun. So I like following recipes. I like following directions, basically, just my engineering brain. So when someone tells me, here's what you buy, put this together, and it works, I like when you do that.
So have you ever done one of those Blue Apron boxes?
I've done those before.
That sounds like your steez.
Well,
you're right up your alley.
It's kind of like for dummies, right? Because you're not measuring anything. It's like everything comes. They were actually, I think Blue Apron was like a really old sponsor on the podcast from way back in the day.
What?
Yeah. So they sent me some Blue Apron stuff way back in the day. But like for the Trader Joe stuff, I like because you can go in there. It's not like pre-made. I mean, you can buy pre-made stuff, but
it's just a little bit more work. You like the little extra work.
If you're chopping up your own, and you would do some of the stuff with Blue Apron, I think you would like chop up some veggies, but they gave you like, if you needed one shallot, they gave you one shallot. Like the box had everything you need exact. So yeah. But yeah, we got to get to some of the breaking news stuff with Kliff Kingsbury getting. So there looks like a lot of people in the chat. Thank you for coming in there. If you have a question in the chat, so if you're there, we appreciate it. While I'm producing and hosting the show, I kind of look at the chat, what's going on there. I will star anything you put question on, and we'll get back to it later because we do have some questions. We have a voicemail and stuff to get to. So we'll do all that. So if you're in there, that's great. In the chat, if I see something funny, I just happen to catch it, I'll put it up on the screen. But yeah.
Can we do a poll in the chat?
Oh, what kind of poll do you want?
I just want to know if they're going to the sprint game or not.
Oh, are you going?
I just want to do a simple poll if they're going to the spring game or not, and we'll check it by the time we start talking about the spring game because we have a lot of things to get to before we get to the spring game, which is like the last thing on our agenda for this week, which is a pretty busy week. There's 3 practices, one of which we covered.
Yeah.
And there's a spring game on Saturday. And then Kliff Kingsbury is official, part of the football staff, senior offensive analyst. So busy week.
Let us know in the chat if you're going to the spring game. We got looks like 122 people already in the chat, so that's pretty good. Not bad for an off day that we weren't really going to do. Your boy Moneybag Mansford's back.
Okay, I got to do the cha-ching.
I got to. Oh, hold on. Where's the cha-ching? Yeah.
Sorry, Moneybags. He's new around here. He doesn't
I'm new.
understand.
I don't do this stuff.
He doesn't know what.
We got so okay. If you give us a donation, we have to put your comment up on the screen like kind of right away. He says, "How do you navigate the relationship with other beat writers covering USC football? Is there a sense of camaraderie, or is it more of a cutthroat atmosphere?" Do you want to take it?
It's not a cutthroat atmosphere, and Ryan is friends with everyone at all times. He brings everyone.
Not
cookies.
quite everyone, but most.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's not cutthroat, and it's not like super friendly. It's just like right in the middle. Like you talk to beat writers during practice. You know, when we were able to watch practice all the time, you would form into little clusters and just like shoot the shit with people next to you mainly during special teams portion of practice because no one was really paying attention during special teams, which, as we know, was a large part of Clay Helton practice. But you just chill, talk, point out observations, talk about, what do you think about this player, or just talk about anything random. Like I talked to like Antonio Morales of The Athletic. We talk about movies all the time. Like, oh, what'd you see? So yeah, it's a friendly relationship with reporters. Yeah,
I mean, it's still a competitive atmosphere because you're, competing for stories, scoops, all that kind of stuff. So, but there's, most people know each other and it's mostly friendly, I would say. It gets a little when there's a bunch of TV cameras in there, and it's kind of that gets a little.
Ryan hates TV camera reporters.
I don't hate TV camera reporters, but they can't get in the way. They kind of got to take some liberties, and it's like, so sometimes you gotta stand your ground. I would say most of the time there, but yeah, for the most part, everyone gets along. It's a lot of fun, and it was nice on Monday to actually get that feeling of watching practice and making comments to other people that cover the team, and you're like, whoa, look at that, or we haven't seen that before, that kind of stuff. But even when we're watching, and now we can't watch practice normally, like Chris is really good. Make sure you check out the Ghost Notes. Chris's Ghost Notes from yesterday are epic. We had a really good instant analysis with RJ Abadia. So RJ did a really nice job filling in there because Chris had to go right away and write up the Kliff Kingsbury stuff and then the Ghost Notes. But look at his Ghost Notes, and you could go and watch practice and certainly look at the notes that he has and go, I would never would have seen all those things. So there's it's talent. Like there's work involved when you're doing that. So you can talk, but you're also trying to figure out what's going on. And if you see something that's definitely out of the ordinary, it's not something that you would tell one of your competitors. There might be, Chris might come over to me, or I might go over to Chris and like, hey, did you see this? Or he's like, hey, did you see this? Like, oh, and take a note. So we kind of lose a little bit of that, not being able to watch most of practice anymore. But it was fun to kind of do that again on Monday.
That's why I don't talk to people. Because if I'm talking, I'm not observing. So I let Ryan do all the talking.
Yeah. Nice. Oh man, we got another donation.
You got another dono?
Tellini.
Tyrone Telleni donated to.
I don't think it's Tyrone, but what will the format be for the spring game?
So
we're like starting off with questions.
Yeah. Well, if it's a dono, I have to do it. I have to do it if it's a dono. Before we get into this, is like the appetizer for Kliff Kingsbury. The last year, because they were so limited on bodies, they just like split them up into two teams.
Yeah.
This year, it's going to be offense versus defense. They have enough depth, so it's going to be strictly offense versus defense, and there will be like a point system, scoring system. I believe Lincoln Riley talked about that on Trojans Live.
Yeah.
So it'll be straight offense versus defense.
I thought they did that last year too. No.
No, they split the two. They split them up into like each side got a quarterback.
Okay.
Defensive players. Blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
I believe it was like first team offense, first team offense, second team defense, first team defense, second team offense kind of deal.
Yeah, but you're going to get a half of football. So they'll do some other stuff. It didn't sound like it was going to be extremely long, but a half of live football. So I think that'll be good to kind of see. Because I think last year, what was it? I think it was like Miller Moss, and so I think it was Caleb Williams, and who was the quarterback that went along with Caleb? And then it was Miller Moss, and I think he got Mo Hassan, and Mo Hassan got hurt, and it was like basically Miller Moss and like kind of a backup offensive line. It was sort of like ugly by the end. He just never got a break, and because the other quarterback was hurt. So that was. So this will be a little just first offense, defense, and I kind of like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we need to jump into Kliff.
We got to jump into the breaking news. Really thought that the big news was like that we found out Sunday night that we were going to go watch a full practice on Monday. We get out of there, like getting ready to do stuff, and then it's like, boop, 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 boop. Oh, Kliff Kingsbury is coming back. So if you remember in 2018, Clay Helton, do you remember him? He hired Kliff Kingsbury to be the offensive coordinator. So a lot of pressure was on Clay Helton. There's a lot of people they needed to make a big move. They go out and get Kliff Kingsbury. Was a big move. He ends up leaving for the Arizona Cardinals. Lasted 4 years and gets fired. But he had been fired from Texas Tech. USC hires him. He leaves. Then he gets fired by the Cardinals a few years later. But now he's back, senior offensive analyst. I know Bruce Feldman and ESPN, Pete Thamel, they're reporting stuff about him helping out with the quarterbacks and game planning and things like that. But Kliff Kingsbury back on the staff. Chris, any thoughts?
A couple thoughts.
Okay.
Number one, I saw a lot of people, like Twitter reporters, going like, "Oh, he's going to be the new QB coach." No, he is not the QB coach. There's a big difference from being the quarterback's coach to working with the quarterbacks. He is not an assistant. He is not taking up one of those 10 assistant spots. That is not what's happening. He is a senior offensive analyst. He's going to be helping with game planning, working with the quarterbacks in the film room, talking with Lincoln Riley, watching film with him, giving his opinion. That's what a senior offensive analyst does, much like Greg Brown as a senior defensive analyst. They just give their insights. They offer another opinion, another look. Hey, what if we do this? Game planning, stuff like that. So he's not a full-time assistant. He's a senior offensive analyst. I just want to make that clear. The other point that I want to make before I get into my thoughts is that I just want to give us a little credit, Ryan, because we did mention this in the War Room exactly 1 month ago.
Was it 1 month ago?
Yeah, we reported in our Monday, our March 10th War Room.
It was 1 month
about Kliff Kingsbury. That was our lead. And April 10th, ESPN breaks it that he's joining the staff. But we wrote about how Kliff Kingsbury was seen in a USC meeting. There was a little bit of interest. There was talks. I had heard that, he was going to possibly join as a offensive analyst. We couldn't quite confirm like what was actually going on, but we knew that he was around the program. Was he just stopping by to like, get a refresher, just pick the mind of Lincoln Riley, two offensive quarterback guys just, just hanging out, picking each other's brains? Or was it something more like, hey, why don't you, come join the staff? Let's just be an analyst. He has a house, I believe, in Redondo or Manhattan Beach or somewhere. He has somewhere in LA.
Somewhere close by here.
Yeah, he lives in he has a house here in LA. He obviously got fired from the Cardinals. They're paying, he has a fat buyout or contract, whatever. So he's not worried about money. That's not the issue for him. Maybe he just wants to be back in football. And, there was speculation that he was going to take time away from football. He was in Thailand taking a vacation, but there was reports that it came up that he was, interested. I believe he was interested in openings with the Ravens and Houston. So it seemed like he wasn't ready to take that long of a break from football. Still wanted to be in football. So that all aligns itself for USC. So I just wanted to give us a little credit because we did report this in the War Room.
Hold on, I think I have some. Self-applause. Sorry.
We reported that, this is a thing. This is a thing that could happen a month later. But credit to ESPN, they reported the official news first, but just want to give us a little credit. But overall thoughts, this is a big addition. I mean, Kliff Kingsbury, Lincoln Riley, that quarterback room is insane in terms of knowledge and just a rundown of the list that these guys have worked with. Obviously Caleb Williams, both work with Baker Mayfield. Kyler Murray, they both work with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, Kliff Kingsbury coach Patrick Mahomes while he was at Texas Tech. And Johnny Manziel, he was his quarterback coach and offensive coordinator at Texas A&M when he won the Heisman. And then Jalen Hurts, when Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma. All those guys, except for Hurts, were first-round picks. 4 of those guys were Heisman winners. Caleb Williams is the only one who, outside of Hurts, is not a first-round pick because he's still in college, and he is projected to go number one right now. So,
and it's 4 of the last 9 Heismans were coached by these two guys or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I
think Bruce tweeted that or something.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous the amount of quarterbacks that they've coached. And even a guy like Case Keenum, who, isn't that elite level, but was a really, really good quarterback in college. So an incredible roster of quarterback knowledge in that room now. And, to be a fly on that wall when they're just watching film or in that room is just ridiculous. So it's a big thing. And when you're a elite level head coach like a Lincoln Riley, you can get guys like this on your staff as offensive analysts. We've seen Nick Saban do it time and time again. It's even a running joke. It's called the Nick Saban Rehabilitation Program. This is what he does. He brings in, former hotshot OCs or former hotshot assistants or former
head
NFL coaches that are fired and need, some time to get back on their feet, and he hires them as analysts. The list for him doing that is really long. Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, not Lake McCree, Lane Kiffin, I believe Butch Jones, DJ Jerkin, Doug Maroney, Bill O'Brien. The list goes on and on of, former head coaches, former hot assistants that, had some of their shine taken off, come back to Nick Saban, and they were able to bounce back and go on to do, be better than what they were. So for Kliff Kingsbury to come back and, want to work with Lincoln Riley and want to learn from him says a lot about Lincoln Riley and where the program is now. Getting these guys to come and be on your staff is incredible.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And I know there's some negativity with some of the questions, and I don't get where some of this comes from.
Negativity?
I want to put one of these up here. Fat Bank, I wouldn't be touting Johnny Football or Kyler Murray as exceptional quarterbacks. Heisman Trophy winning, first round draft pick, number 1 overall draft pick.
I'm not talking about what they did in the NFL. I mean,
how do you say, these guys were phenomenal college quarterbacks. They were ridiculously good. And, Kyler Murray's had some amazing, I mean, your number one overall pick. Like, that's what you're talking. They've coached these guys, and they've had a lot of success. Now, you can argue, well, this guy, wasn't a great NFL guy or whatever. Well, I mean, it's pretty, Kyler Murray's a starting NFL quarterback. Just to do that, it's fine. Not the number one overall pick and everything. Johnny Football, definitely was not an NFL guy, but he still won the Heisman. He still beat Alabama. I mean, you saw what he could do. So,
anyone who's been a college football fan like the last 10 years knows about Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
Know how like electric he was. Again, we know he flamed out in the NFL. We know he had, off the field problems, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a literal Heisman winner.
Yeah.
And Kyler Murray was one of the most electric players. Even though he still is. He is an electric player in the NFL still. I mean, Arizona is like a dumpster fire in terms of their organization and, just a toxic mess. That's like not on him. I mean, was Kliff Kingsbury a good NFL head coach? He had moments, but like,
I don't think he was. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was Bill Belichick or anything, obviously. There's a lot of hotshot new coaches, and he wasn't, one of them. I think he made the playoffs once or whatever, but it was just an interesting move by Arizona in general when they hired him because he flamed out at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And then he got hired. USC offensive coordinator was like the perfect role for him.
Exactly.
But Arizona was like, we got to get him. Let's get so, and you can't turn down that money if they're giving you that. So
no, and that was the thing where like it was just because he was associated with a hotshot college offense, and that's all that anyone cared about. Young, hotshot offense. We get Sean McVay in a different way, so we'll take a failed college head coach because he's got a great offense, and we'll make it work. You can say that he's not been a good head coach. Like he had problems at Texas Tech. He certainly flamed out in the NFL after a while. But you can't argue that he's not a great offensive mind, that he's really good with quarterbacks. Like that's what he's brought on for. So you could be a great assistant, you do your job really well, and a lot of times you get promoted, and you're the best defensive coordinator out there. You like Brett Venables. Now he's the head coach at Oklahoma. He might be really good. He might not. It's like doesn't mean that you're a great, just because you're a great assistant doesn't mean you're a great head coach. The NFL move, like Chris said, was a little bit weird because he didn't work as a head coach, but they hired him just because they wanted that. They want some fun college offense and be innovative and all of that. So,
but if you're his agent, you're like, take this job.
Zillion percent. If you're like, he's getting like $9 million a year, like still, like that's why USC can hire him because he's still getting paid by the Cardinals.
And he still have always that meme war room picture of his mansion in Arizona.
Oh my God, the Ryan Gosling lookalike stuff. Anyway, he's back. Which is great. We had another donation, Trojan alum. $10.
What is this, the composite 2-star show?
You guys don't have to do this, but I guess if you want to interrupt our show, we will definitely put it up on the screen if you give us
We will
money.
read anything on that screen.
For money.
For money.
Do you think there might be a high-profile addition to the defensive coaching side of the ball? I mean, they had one.
Gerard did say on the composite a couple weeks ago that he anticipated more analysts. Now, I'm not sure if he was strictly just referring to Kliff, but he made it sound like there might be another one. I don't know if that's a defensive analyst. We'll have to see. There was a big name that was floating out there earlier Gary Patterson. But that was just like early talks. It wasn't like anything serious. There was some talks about that, but as of right now, I mean, I'm not sure about any like Kliff Kingsbury level analysts for the defense. Patterson obviously would be on that level, but I don't think that's going to happen. And again, that was just something we heard in passing.
But they've already got they already hired a good, someone with a long track record. Now, not like
they want a sexy name.
They want a sexy name.
They want a sexy name.
All right, but they're definitely doing it. I'll put Fat Bank thing up again. He says Lincoln Riley has already coached Heisman-winning quarterbacks. Kingsbury is not a better offensive coach than Riley. I don't think he is, but it helps. I mean, it's just another set of eyes. I think when Riley talked about that, when you're adding people to the staff as analysts, it's just someone that's overseeing sort of everything or whatever it is. You have another set of eyes. And this guy was a former NFL head coach, like not that long ago. He was a college NFL. I mean, it was a college head coach. Very successful offensive coordinator, successful offensive mind. He's in those meetings, and if Lincoln Riley thinks he can help, I don't disagree. I'm not saying that Kingsbury is better than Riley, but
we're not saying that.
No, but you just someone else that's really good. If you're like,
I think it's pretty clear that Lincoln Riley is a better regarded coach.
Yes,
because he has winning records at places he's been.
Yeah.
Kingsbury has struggled with his coaching record. Like, just look at the records as a head coach. They're widely different. There's a huge gap. I'm not saying Kliff Kingsbury isn't a talented coach. He's proven to be a coach who can win a Heisman. He's won Heismans before with players, and he's developed good quarterback talent.
Yeah.
And he's struggled with being a head coach. And, for him, he can come in and learn something from Lincoln Riley. Put the ego aside and learn something for whatever his next step is, whether that's going back to the NFL, he wants to be a head coach at his own college program, whatever that may be. He's here to learn from Lincoln Riley and offer things that he knows and maybe stuff that he got in the NFL when he was there as well. So I think it's a win-win for both. And just having someone of that caliber like Kliff Kingsbury in that room, that might help Lincoln Riley put some more effort into the defense.
Yeah.
If you have a guy you can trust being there,
point.
He can the game planning, I can put a little bit more on Kliff's plate to help with that, and I can take a little more time to work on the defense. So, I would think about it like that.
Yeah. Paul says both these coaches are branches of the Mike Leach tree. Think that they will represent very well and bring some good twists in the offense. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like you got a Michelin star chef and you like, oh, this other Michelin star chef is like lost his job or he's going on a little sabbatical. Hey, come on to the kitchen and help me out a little bit. Or check, you maybe try this with this. It's like, what, how's it? If Lincoln Riley doesn't like it, if he's like, get this guy out of here, you just fire him. There's no big deal. You're not paying the guy a lot of money. So I don't see, it just seems like you got a lot of, like the whole point when USC hired Lincoln Riley, USC became nationally relevant again. You win 11 games, you win a Heisman. The things that keep you in the national spotlight are things like this. You hired Kliff Kingsbury. It's like everyone's talking about it's spring game time or whatever. That's what people are talking about. If you're talking about college football, you're talking about Kliff Kingsbury coming to USC. So I don't see any real downside for this. I think it's a good move. And yes, it would be good to see some moves on the defensive side as well.
And just to say something that Lincoln Riley has said in the past when it comes to offense, like the way you stay ahead of defenses is to keep evolving, to keep pushing, to keep learning. And Kliff Kingsbury can help push, can help evolve, can help see things different. Like if you're not changing anything, you're not looking at things differently or trying to look at things differently, your offense is going to stagnate as defenses catch up. So you have to keep pushing it a little further. So I think that's another thing you can look at with this move is someone that can help maybe push the offense further. Yeah.
And I like a guy like Greg Brown, when Lincoln Riley hired him, said there's just, he's overseeing sort of everything. It's this more vision of what's going on, can give feedback to the coaches, put his own insight there. And if they hire another high-profile defensive analyst to come in and help, that's even better. So, but yeah, these are all good things. Like this is how you're building like a program for the long haul. Like Kliff Kingsbury's not going to be around forever, but you get him for a while he's sort of on his time off. It's like that time between jobs. He's still getting paid a crap ton of money from the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, I'm just going to go to LA and hang out with Lincoln Riley and basically put my name. I'm going to associate my name with another Heisman winner and Caleb Williams.
And I don't have to do the pressure of being the head coach. I don't have to answer the media with wins and losses. I don't have to do all those things. I get to chill, just do what I love to do. Be in a film room and break down football and talk with quarterbacks.
Yeah,
that's at the core of what it is. And he doesn't have to do he doesn't have to go recruit. He doesn't have to do all that stuff. He just gets to collect a fat check from the Cardinals, live in Manhattan Beach, commute to lovely Southern California, USC, and just have fun in college, in the college game again.
And Roger says, Kingsbury coached Patrick Mahomes in college. Check those games out. Kliff could bring 5 more points per game average. I don't know about that. That's a lot, but he certainly could help, But certainly, yes, having Patrick Mahomes in college was pretty good.
The guy Caleb Williams is compared to a lot by NFL analysts these days.
That was cool. Let's kind of move on, and I want to talk about the open practice that we had on Monday. So a week and a half ago, Lincoln Riley, we got word on Thursday that practice was canceled, so we get to go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Well, we can go Tuesday, Thursday. They practice Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. We don't go Saturday. We hear from Lincoln Riley on Zoom afterwards. Normally, we would be able to interview players and coaches after the Thursday practice, but we got kind of last-minute word that it was canceled. Lincoln Riley had since said it was because there were some injuries there, and there were some position groups that weren't going to really be able to kind of bring it to practice. So instead of just having a half-ass practice, I guess, they were going to cancel it and reschedule for a future date. It could have been last week or this week. We didn't hear about it last week, and we heard Sunday night that it was going to be on Monday. It wasn't. I thought it was shells, but it wasn't shells. It was really just sort of like some
spiders.
Like it's not like quite pads, but it's, whatever. It's no pads essentially.
Yeah, it's just like not foam, but it's like a hard. It's like that thing you put on the back of your seat, just like an extra firm, cover or something, but in the shape of a shoulder.
Yeah. But anyway, so it was a lighter practice. There was really almost no run game. I don't think I saw any run plays, to be honest. And no live tackling or anything. But we did get to watch the entire thing, so it was nice to sort of see, guys that maybe we've seen in the Pac-12. Like Christian Wallace or Keon Bars, or like to see them in like Cardinal and Gold uniforms, to see Dorian Singer catching a pass in a more competitive period from Miller Moss or whatever. That was kind of cool because we haven't been able to see that before. We just watched kind of the stretching in the individual periods. We can't talk about formations,
lining up,
whatever they're doing, the depth chart, anything like that from what we saw. But we were allowed to talk about like kind of performances and things, and it was, to me, it was really cool to see some of these guys out there. And I kind of reiterated like an Anthony Lucas, when you see him sort of like holding his helmet on his hip with his like blonde hair, standing next to Sean Nua, or just chatting about the play when he's not in. And I'll reiterate, just like you look at the dude and be like, if you didn't know anything about football, you're like, that guy's probably good. Like, if you had to pick someone, he's probably really good, right? So it's just kind of cool to see something like that and see some of the competitors and hearing some of the chirping, hearing like Mario Williams complain to Max Williams that he's being held on the play or being held multiple times. Those things you just miss when we don't get to watch practice. So I thought it was a cool thing. We didn't talk to anybody after practice. We will be able to talk to people today on Tuesday and on Thursday, but I thought it was great to be able to get out there. And RJ and I kind of broke it down a little bit. But I wanted to get your thoughts, Chris, because I didn't really get to talk to you after what you saw in practice.
For sure. And I made a note of this in my Ghost Notes because a lot of people were really excited for those Ghost Notes because it's the first full practice that we've gotten to see under Lincoln Riley. And I made a note like, yes, it's probably not full pads. It wasn't full pads. It probably is more like walkthrough-ish because of that. Yes, that's true. But for like the last year, we've seen the same like 15 to 20 minutes of practice. It's like to use a cookie analogy for you, Ryan, it's like I've been cooking with the same 3 ingredients for a year. Lima beans, stale bread, and potatoes. And yes, it wasn't a steak that they gave us, but it was like a piece of chicken. And that's something different, and that's something new. I could do a lot of things with a piece of chicken. So it was a great piece of chicken. Got to see a lot of things, got to see new drills. It was very weird in that time before they usually kick us out. It was like we were like in no man's land. We didn't really know what to expect. It was a standard practice. They did 7-on-7. They did a little bit more one-on-one instruction, or individual instruction. They had some special teams. They ended with 11-on-11, which by the sound of it after practice, that's usually what they end with. We can see that. So, it was nice to see just guys moving out there, guys doing extra work. I think Jack Sullivan really stood out to me. Mason Cobb also really stood out to me. Sierra Wright had a really nice practice from what I saw. You've heard Lincoln Riley talk about how you can see the confidence building in him, and he's elevated his game to another level. I saw that watching him play. Had a couple really nice pass breakups. Good battling with Brendan Rice, who is a bigger receiver, but he was hanging with him. He's definitely looks like he's taking the next step. And then highlight play was a Miller Moss deep bomb to Dorian Singer for 40 yards in the 11-on-11 best play. And we've heard every player and coach talk about how Dorian Singer has an amazing catch radius. If it's in his area, he's coming down with it, and he showed that with that play. So just something that we expect to see from Saturdays out of Dorian Singer, and we'll be seeing last season in Arizona, but seeing on the practice field was pretty cool.
It was. I'm like, number 15, he's going to be really good. You remember, USC has some good number 15s, but I think he's going to be really good. He could be a number one option for Caleb Williams going for him. He was second leading receiver in the Pac-12 for a reason. So now he's wearing USC. All the Arizona guys I thought are going to be really good. Like, if I'm a Wildcat fan, I'm going to look at this USC team and be like, does Dorian Singer lead the team in receptions? Like, is Christian Roller-Wallace their best corner? Is Keon Barnes their best defensive lineman? Like, all those guys could be the best in their positions, right?
And 3 starters.
Yeah.
Because, Singer looks like a starter. Keon Barnes looks like he's operating as the number one nose guard. While Christian Roller-Wallace has to catch up to that, but he was also injured for the first half of spring camps. But he looks
jacked, though.
He's huge. First, at least early rotation player, and obviously a guy who started for 3 years.
Yeah.
So
you could say he's the best looking corner, right? Could you say that? Or
I would say he's the buffest corner. I will say I'm not gonna challenge him in a snatch bench or anything like that. That's how big his arms are, and I'm gonna post the video of it today when he's walking out.
And he wears he cuts or whatever. He had the sleeves up for the.
Sure, if I had arms like that, I would.
Right, and you're like, it just made his arms look bigger.
If I had arms like that, I wouldn't own any shirts with sleeves. I'll tell you that much right now.
Yeah, we did have a comment. The Wheeler Dealer. Is there any video for practice? So we weren't allowed to shoot video. We could shoot the parts we could normally shoot, which is stretching essentially. So we've put up videos of that. You kind of get tired of it because it's really the same stuff.
And there weren't any pads, so it's like.
Yeah.
But there is no video of team stuff or 7-on-7.
Yeah, they don't let us do any of that. But it was fine. It was good. It was mostly what they said was kind of for our own benefit, which I think makes sense going into the spring game when you can watch everything. But it helps you. The more you observe, that helps you ask better questions and things like that. It's pretty cool.
And I am very appreciative of Lincoln Riley and USC for making that happen, letting us do that.
It was nice and
very valuable.
It was cool. Even seeing to have me, Chris, and Keely kind of standing next to each other, watching practice on the sideline, chatting. It's been a while since we were able to do that, so that was pretty cool. One of the cooler things that came out, this was last week, and Chris and I did an instant analysis of it. Sean Nua, I'm going to put a picture of him. It was funny to see him yesterday. So the defensive linemen were doing these sled drills where 3 different pads on a big sled, and you would push the sled. And they had some student manager standing on it.
Puanyone who's played football knows this, where you have your position coach yelling at you, why should you move that sled with 2 other teammates? Yeah, so you're pushing the sled, and so there was an assistant kind of on the side that would when they pushed it too far, the little student manager would get off, and I'm just he was just not a big guy. As big as me. And
they would twist the sled around, and then 3 other guys would come out and push it the other way. After a little while, the little guy got off, and Sean Nua got on, and Chris was like, "Whoa, okay, that changed the whole drill." We have Sean Nua sitting on your sled.
The first part with the little guy was the warm up, and then Sean Nua is like, "Yeah, if you don't build strength after doing that for a whole camp, I don't know what to tell you." Pushing Sean Nua around on a sled, yeah,
that doesn't look fun.
That's how you make a strong. That's how you make a strong boy in the trenches. Push Sean Nua on the sled.
And then we got to talk to him last week, and we haven't done we talked to him after we did our podcast last week. So I wanted to bring this up because he had a great line. I think we were talking about Keon Barnes because Barnes ended up speaking to the media on Thursday, and then you remembered the great quote from Sean Nua. I'll let you go with it.
Ryan's been obsessed with this quote since I told it on Instant Analysis.
I was laughing.
But Sean Nua was just asked about, getting a big body defensive tackle like Keon Barrs. And if you look at Keon Barrs, he's like a very different looking body than most guys on the roster, 6'3", 290 pounds, 300 pounds. But that was the question he was asked. And he kind of like was starting his question, and then he kind of just like stopped himself. He's like, big people beat up little people. And yes, that is football.
And he was looking
at you. Yeah. I felt like I didn't appreciate him looking at me when he said little people, when he really emphasized that. But that is what football is at its core. Big people beating up little people. And he did add, the big people still got to be quick. So there's still an emphasis on speed. But yeah, big people beat up little people. It's we need that soundbite.
Yeah. Oh,
West Texas Trojan. Yeah.
Oh, you want to cut that? Oh, wait, from the video. I cut it from the video.
Send him the video. We need that quote. Big people beat up little people.
West Texas Trojan for sure. Got to go get that one. I think, and some people want to know, like, hey, what was your takeaway? What we heard from Lincoln Riley, I think, and RJ expressed this during instant analysis too. We hear what's going on in practice from, we hear from sources, but also from, Lincoln Riley or Alex Grinch or whoever it is. And I think what we saw sort of went along with a lot of what they had said. Like if they were saying, it was really competitive and sometimes the offense wins and sometimes the defense wins, which is something they've said, and all it looked like is the offense just bowled them over, they'd be like, I don't know if that's really true. But we only saw one practice. But we did see that. There's sort of like that back and forth with the defense. And I think overall, like Chris mentions Jack Sullivan, or we talked already about Anthony Lucas, or you're talking about hey, Solo, looks like he's going to, be a big contributor of what's going on. Or Keon Barrs, like there are a lot of names, Mason Cobb. I just have a feeling he's going to be just a machine out there. It's like you're not the leading like they had. Oklahoma State had a really good defense for a couple of years, and he was a big part of that. I think you're going to see a bunch of new faces making huge contributions on the defensive side of the ball, and it's tough to replace like a Tuli Tuipulotu, but there's just a lot more dudes that maybe some of the guys that were on the team, like a Solo or whatever, are stepping up their game and making bigger contributions, like a Sierra Wright, like a Damani Jackson, who's coming off of injury, and he can be a big contributor. But the new guys too. So if you want some optimism about the defense, it just seems like there's going to be a lot more guys out there that are going to be contributing and helping. So, it's like taking what the coaches, you're taking what the word of the coaches. I think what we saw yesterday sort of went along with what they've been saying.
Sure. I think, especially when it comes to the defense, because there's been a lot of, not excitement, but there's been optimism for the defense in terms of them moving in the right direction, more depth, more bodies, more competition. And yeah, I think we saw some of that. You saw Sierra Wright look like a better player. You saw Jack Sullivan be a guy yesterday. You saw Mason Cobb be a guy yesterday. So I think we saw the defense get in the face of the quarterbacks during that team 11-11. Now, we're watching from behind a group of guys sort of, so it's like we see bits and pieces and all that. So you don't have the advantage of looking, and the linemen can't grab onto anything really, because they're not in pads or anything. So it's more in favor of the defense, but the defense was creating pressure. So you like to see that. Again, someone asked me, seeing what you saw, are you more excited as a USC fan? Should you be more excited about the defense? I wouldn't say full on excited. I feel like you should be more optimistic.
Yes.
Get another Jack Sullivan, get another Keon Barrs out of the transfer portal, which opens on Saturday, by the way.
Yeah.
Then I think you can be more excited.
Yeah.
Get some more front guys, then you can be more excited.
Yeah.
But you can be optimistic. You can be positively optimistic. That's the same thing. You can be optimistic about based on what I saw.
Yeah, and we're always trying to, I know we're not trying to be sunshine pumpers. We're going to say everything's great when we don't think it is. If we think something sucks, we're going to say it sucks. If we think it's good, say it's good. Whatever, all that stuff. I think we were telling you straight for the last several years about the way the direction was going, didn't like it. And then when they hire Riley, liked the direction it's going. I feel like there is good reason to be optimistic that the defense is going to be, better than it was last year. So I think how much better is the question. it can be significantly better. And if it is, then you're talking about winning the conference. And if you're not significantly better, I don't know with the harder schedule if you're going to be able to do that. So I see the pieces there that you could put together a much better defense than last year.
You know what we can be sunshine pumpers about, though?
What?
Punts. The punts were booming on Howard Jones Field.
I think we need like a disclaimer because there's people. It's sort of like if you mention Clay Helton, like people kind of jump into their shell. If you start talking about booming punts in practice, people just like curl up in a ball in the fetal position and cry themselves to sleep.
I will stake my reputation on any Chaplinsky.
You put that in the ghost
I did put that. I will stake my reputation.
He was to be fair, he was all Pac-12 punter last year, right, or whatever.
So it makes it easier for me to stake my reputation on.
But when you saw him punt, it just looks like it comes off his foot different than the other dudes that had punted. And you're like, that's okay. And then he'd hit it, and you're like, oh, okay. You look at that like, okay, he's good at that. Whatever that, I don't know what that's called, the thing where you kick, but he's good at that. Like, yes, it's spiraling. It's going to it's going deep.
It's like every other punter, it was like this. But when he was like,
yeah.
There was a notable difference when the ball came off his foot.
If you ever go to like a golf tournament, like if you watch your buddies like hit a 7-iron and it just like it makes this weird sort of sound, and then you go to like Riviera and you're up close and you hear Tiger Woods, like just the sound that makes when he just compresses the ball, and just like it just sounds different when a pro does it, and when it's Saplinski punts, it sounds different than what some of the other guys did.
There's a difference in sound with like the better athletes. Like even with a pitcher catching the ball, when the ball's sizzling and hitting that glove
that pop in the catcher's mitt.
That pop. Same thing with this. The pop is different when he's putting the ball. So he even shanked one. We will say he shanked one, and even that one was like further than a lot of the guys.
Yeah.
The other guys. So yeah.
So some optimism on the punt side too.
You can be excited for the punts.
All right.
I'll go full excitement for the punts.
Your boy Manford is back. $9.99.
Oh my God! Yeah, do the cha-ching.
Oh yeah,
Ryan, come on.
Where's
now.
the cha-ching? Okay. Thanks.
Money bags.
Thanks, Manford. Money bags. Did you observe Tackett Rambo Curtis play during practice, and do you think he lives up to the hype surrounding him?
I think it's tough because the hype for Tackett Rambo Curtis is just like immensely high. To live up to the hype that has the legend that is built around him, like everyone's like, give him the 55 this year. He would have to be like All-American, like consensus freshman not just freshman All-American, but like consensus All-American. That's the type of hype level. But I do think Tackett is going to play a lot this year. I don't know when that's going to be, if that's going to be early or it's going to be something that gradually comes on. I think he's going to have impact, but I didn't really notice him a lot.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a run thing. It was all run. It was all passing. So it's not full pads. So he's not doing what his specialty is, which is like knocking people over. And it's not like full go, obvious. It's not like full, like, you're not trying to get hurt out there because not in full pads. You're just kind of like running you're just like doing coverages and stuff like that. So it wasn't really a scene. It wasn't really a environment that was kind of tailored to a linebacker,
Yeah.
Especially a young linebacker, because I know Mason Cobb was all over the field, but yeah, I think he was just being asked to do different things in this case. A lot of coverages or moving around. It's not like he was headhunting on the run game. He's not doing that. It was just like passing, 7-on-7 is not really for the linebackers. They drop back, they look around.
Right. What's going on?
Passes are going down the field. It's like, it wasn't a practice tailored to appreciate what Tackett can do. You'll see more of that on the spring game. That'll be when you can really see Tackett for what Tackett is and get excited about it and see what he can do.
I'm excited for that too, just because if you look at him, he's not like a physically imposing. He's not like this massive human being, right? Like he's not
for a freshman. He is big.
He's big for a freshman, but he's not like he's not as big as like Mason Cobb or somebody, or so you want to see him in action because you know what he can do when he's flying around the football field. So you can't look at it when he's like trying to cover a running back out of the backfield and be like, wow, that guy's going to be amazing. So I think Saturday we'll get a better, kind of view of that. I'm sure he's going to be flying around. So watch for number 25. It should be fun.
Do we have an update on how many people are going, or
Was there
an official
I don't know if
poll
people have
made?
been saying that. We didn't really do a poll. Do you get people to let us know?
Do a poll.
Can we do that?
I thought you could.
Let me see.
And how many people are watching?
We got 326 people watching.
What? Oh my goodness!
Don't call them degenerates.
I'm not calling them degenerates because someone got mad last time.
I know. We really appreciate you spending time. People on their lunch break. It's a 12 o'clock show, so on their lunch break there.
But you are.
Speaking of break, why don't we take a quick break and we'll come back and answer your questions. Back in a minute. Were you shocked that there was that many people in the?
Yeah, I thought you were going to say like 150.
Yeah. Well, I think Kliff Kingsbury.
Well,
news,
yeah, I think
open practice.
it's the.
I guess Tuesday's better than Thursday. I don't know.
I guess. I don't know.
There was breaking news. I think the breaking news kind of stuff.
Now I'm embarrassed. Now I'm nervous.
You're nervous?
Last week we had like 80 people.
Yeah. Can we have a email? I didn't write down who it's from, so my apologies. But can your team provide an update on the status of Romello Height? There's been no mention of him leading up or during spring practice. Thanks. He still looks good coming up the tunnel, right? He still looks like
he's
the first guy off the bus, dude.
he's coming off the shoulder injury. He's been at practice. He has participated in individual drills. Again, he's coming off surgery. He's coming off a tough injury, which is the what's subluxation or whatever the thing is where your elbow or your shoulder keeps popping out and you need surgery to fix it. That's tricky. They don't want to overdo it, so they're being cautious with him. But he's been getting some work this spring.
Yeah,
that's as most I can really say.
Right. We're not allowed to talk about like injuries or things like that. So.
But he is out there. He has, it's to the point where I've requested to talk to him because if he's doing practice, you can talk to them. So
Joshua Shaw says he works graveyard, and Blackie Chan said he's at work but just watching us. So that's good.
I hope it's not a job that needs his attention.
Yeah, the Wheeler dealer says
he's like an EMT.
Any word on Zion Branch? Is he still recovering?
Yeah, again, same boat. He's coming off a serious surgery, knee surgery. So being cautious with him as, it's spring, it's not fall. You don't really need to go all out in that sense. So bring him along slowly. All the guys really coming off surgeries like that are being, they do practice. They do practice and, but it's just being cautious about them when it comes to stuff like full contact and stuff like that. Yeah, but they're both out there. So, taking it day by day, getting back to full health, to trust the shoulder, trust the knee. But Zion has looked good. He does all the individual drills and stuff.
Yeah. It's good to see him out there. I think he's excited to be out there too. Let's do a voicemail.
Hey, Ryan, it's Curtis. I'm glad to see that Sierra Wright is proving the doubters wrong. All the experts basically had other people starting at cornerback until Lincoln Riley told us how good Sierra Wright is doing. And the way I feel about it, Sierra is going to be able to space jam the receivers off the line of scrimmage and cover them well. And he's also grownish enough to stay with any receiver, whoever they are. And if you know about his second job, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Curtis from Moreno Valley.
Yes, Curtis. Sierra Wright, the actor.
In Space Jam and the show Grownish. So
yeah.
For the play on words from Curtis, if you don't understand.
It's good to see him out there. And I think if you remember, was it last spring where we heard from kind of Dante Williams and the quote was something along the lines of he needs to decide what's important or something like. Do you remember that where Dante Williams kind of mentioned that, and you kind of felt like, well, is it because the acting thing was going on and he's not putting the time into football? But I don't know. After that quote, it just seemed everything sort of changed a little bit. Do you remember that one?
I do. I mean, I don't remember the exact wording. Perhaps it was a little bit out of context for what it was taken, because I believe Dante clarified his statement later on. So, I mean, I have to go back, and I don't want to like misquote it or anything, but it was just an interesting quote about Sierra and, balancing both football and acting.
Yeah.
And I will say I was one person who did not have Sierra as a starter in my projections. So I ate crow on that. But, Sierra's a talented player. I mean, he was a top 100 prospect. I think people forget that because of, Space Jam and LeBron James and that thing. He was a top 100 prospect. He was a really good cornerback coming out of Loyola, and you just had to. And he was a track guy too, I believe. So a lot of talent, a lot of things you liked. So, but just had to put it all together. And he was a 17-year-old kid doing kind of like a full-time acting kind of deal.
Yeah.
And being a Division I athlete at USC and in college coursework. So it's a lot to handle, and I can see why it takes some adjusting to get to find the balance and all that. But here he is, redshirt sophomore year, whatever the case, he broke through as a starter last year. Game started to slow down for him. That was his, quote from him from this past interviews, that really started to slow down at the end of the season and early in camp. So he's definitely finding that groove. And I think we're going to see another big season from him. To build off what he did last year, starting 9 games, and heck, right now he's trending towards being a starter once again in 2023.
Yeah, Samiz put in there in the chat something along the lines of Sierra's the only thing holding Sierra back. And that's what I remember, something about that. So, but yeah, thank you for that one. We got a text from Casey in Apple Valley. Do you know if they're doing autograph signings at the spring game? And also, Chris, you owe me a cupcake since you were late to the bake-off. People don't forget.
I was late to the bake-off.
You didn't show up till later, so I don't know.
Was there a set time?
Well, I mean, you were late.
Oh, okay.
I would say you were late.
Yeah, late to my win. How about that? I was trying to give you enough time to feel good about yourself before the
nice.
You had to hold that L for you, but sure, I'll get you a cupcake next get together we do.
Yeah, we got to do a get together in like summer.
At least one tailgate this year for. Well, I meant during a game, but sure, yeah, that could work also.
Yeah.
But what was the first part of that question?
Oh crap! It was.
Oh,
they do autograph signings. Yeah.
I have no idea. They have not announced that.
They haven't.
I don't think they are, because I feel like that's something you would have announced going into it. Someone also asked me about if they're doing a surplus sale, which again, I don't think so. But again, it's kind of early in the week. But I feel like you would have already announced that a little bit, to get people excited and fired up about it. So as of right now, I don't have official answers for you, but I feel like it would have been announced by now. So I'm going to say no.
All right, we got Stool Poster's been in the chat, and he brought this up before I started, but he just brought it up again, so I'll put it up now. Why didn't they hire Jim Leonard, and why does he still not have a job? Yeah, that's interesting. So he could have been the next head coach at Wisconsin, right? Great defensive coordinator. They didn't go with him. Who did they hire at Wisconsin? What was the
guy from
I'm blanking.
The USC was Cincinnati.
Yeah. Okay.
Fickle.
Yeah, Luke Fickle. Okay. So, but Leonard, I believe, wasn't retained, and I don't think he's working right now. I mean, that's someone that Lincoln Riley could bring in as an analyst if he's not going to end up working as a defensive coordinator. He was definitely one of the better defensive coordinators in the country. USC didn't hire him because Lincoln Riley wanted to keep the staff together. I don't think he would be opposed to bringing him in if he's going to be some sort of analyst role, unless they had some issue that we don't know about or whatever. But yeah, like if he ended up firing Alex Grinch, I think Jim Leonard would be someone he would have looked at. But Yeah, I don't know why he doesn't have a job. Do you know anything about it?
I don't know why he doesn't have a job. I think there was like some NFL interest, but that didn't really plan out. And as your question, like, why not hire him? Look, I'm not going to pretend to know the thinking of Lincoln Riley when it comes to Jim Leonard and hiring Jim Leonard as an analyst.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that just create more drama around the situation of Alex Grinch and the defensive coordinator position? Because then he's really looking over his shoulder the entire season, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to create that kind of pressure. Look, if you're a fan, you're like, yes, do it. I understand you would want that, but what does it say about me if like Ryan hired a hotshot podcast co-host to be a consultant on this thing, and I constantly like he's sitting right there. What does that say? If I have to constantly like worry about that.
It was like when Clay Helton was at the Coliseum. USC was playing Utah, and Fox was there. And you had Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, but you also had Urban Meyer there. Like everybody wanted Urban Meyer to be the head coach, and like literally,
he's like every game day.
He was looking over his shoulder. Yeah, it'd be something like that. We did have a comment about Fatima. Jim Leonard was up for the Philadelphia Eagles job. I read somewhere that he will undergo hip surgery and is taking the year off of coaching. So he could like something like that. I'm not going to coach, but would you want to come and be an analyst and like rehab your hip in Southern California? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool.
The timing is also interesting. Just being a year off, people think about the pressure being on for Alex Grinch. Is this the last go around for this tandem? I don't know. It's just interesting, and timing wise, I know a lot of fans are like, "This is it.
Yeah,
he's taking a year off."
We got a comment in there that says like he's getting $1.5 million to take the year off. So, but like as an analyst, what does he get? $50K or $100K or something? Like he's still going to make his money, just like Kliff Kingsbury. Like that's not it's not infringing on his ability to make money. You just come in if he wants to do it. Like something like that would be it would be kind of cool to see. Let's pull up a question. Do you think Kliff Kingsbury is Lincoln Riley's exit plan? I don't get the feeling he'll be our head coach for long. And we'll be looking to leave for the NFL on the first thing smoking. I don't get the impression that Lincoln Riley is looking to leave for the NFL. I don't think it's an exit plan. I think Kingsbury is going to do something. I don't think he's going to be the head coach at USC, but I don't know. Any thoughts?
In what way is it an exit plan?
I guess it would be you're hiring your replacement.
Is he saying, hey...
It's like the coach in waiting or something.
It's like, hey, come be an analyst and then you can be the head coach.
Yeah, I think that's the... insinuation, which I don't think that's the case.
Sure. I know Gerard is very, is bullish the word? Maybe that's not the right word, but Gerard is bullish or thinks, Lincoln Riley's not here for long. And he's kind of mentioned that with like Dylan Raiola and like recruiting a more pocket passer than dual threat guy, which is, guys you've won the Heisman with, Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, didn't win the Heisman, but, up there. And opposed to going after a more pocket kind of guy, which is more so the model of the NFL. Like, is it to show that you can do this with an NFL prototype kind of guy?
That's like a long plan.
I know that's Gerard and his long plan conspiracies.
Yeah, but that would be like 5 years from now if you were doing that.
Yeah, it's a
2024 quarterback who would have to like prove himself in college. Like you're talking about 2027 by the time someone would go, oh, he won with that guy.
Yeah, so
I don't think that's immediate thing.
It's kind of like that, and that's kind of what his thinking is. So,
all right, Blackie Chan said, "How much do you think we will see of Caleb in the spring game?" Let me pull this one up.
Probably not a ton. It seemed like they wanted to, in terms of practice yesterday, like the whole team part, which was mainly Malachi Nelson and Miller Moss. So I think...
Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I mean, what
it was. We didn't see a whole lot of Caleb yesterday when the team stuff.
Yeah,
happened.
I mean, why would you? I mean, just get the young guys some reps, which I feel like tells me like, he's a Heisman winner. He doesn't really need to be out there too much. Maybe a couple series, and then, let the young guys have some fun, throw around, build some chemistry, do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Mike says, is the spring game on Pac-12 Network?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So
Yogi
come
Roth
to the game and don't try to find it.
Yogi Roth will be on the call, as he was out of practice, I think, last week. Andrew says, do you think that so he's talking about Kliff Kingsbury. Does he stick this time, or do you believe he pulls another 180 on us?
No, I don't think he'll pull a 180.
Yeah,
I don't think he's like the Broncos are hiring him or something. I don't think he's gonna like bolt for the NFL.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
This is just, he's coming as an analyst. He's working for a real head coach. Like, he's working with the Heisman Trophy winner. Like, if the NFL offered him a head coaching job tomorrow, then yeah. But like, I don't think that's gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen. And
no.
He just went through the ringer with just the pressure and just like, look at the photos. He looks run down.
Yeah.
From the end of the Arizona tenure. He needs a break.
Yeah.
He just wants to chill in the pool, watch some game film, and send some notes,
Yeah. We got one with Kliff Kingsbury coming in. Is Riley going to be more of a CEO coach, taking over the defensive practice if he has to? No, I
don't know about that. He's an offensive guy.
Yeah, he's still going to run He's still going to run the offense.
But like I said, it might help him take a little bit more offense off his plate and put a little bit more defense on his plate.
Yeah, but this isn't, a guy that's like giving up play calling. And yeah, that's what you normally see. I'm going to be more of a CEO. Like, if Jimbo Fisher saying, I'm not going to call plays anymore, I'm going to hire offensive coordinator, and I'm going to be more CEO of the team. Like, that's not what this is. That isn't happening. HR Pickin' Stuff, one of the cooler names. We got some cool names in the chat, by the way. This is also on YouTube. Who's the biggest hitter on defense, Chris?
Hitter?
Yeah, who's the biggest hitter?
I would say Tackett Curtis is a massive hitter.
Yeah. We haven't seen him hit.
Christian Pierce is a big hitter. That's two guys. I think Mason Cobb's a big hitter. Solo is a big hitter.
Yeah.
I would say those are, what's that, 4? I'm trying to think of a 5 to go up there with big hitters. Those are my 4. I mean, Kalen Bullock, he laid the wood in the game where he got the flag. He was a big hitter in high school. So I would say those 5 with Tackett and Christian Pierce being my top right now.
All right. Cobb. And we'll wrap it up. We got a couple NIL questions. M2.
Tight.
Agility. Any updates with NIL Collective Front, Boulevard staff, etc.? And then the email we got was from Scott in Lake Arrowhead. Does Nike have any NIL money going towards USC players in any sport? Do you know how the deal between USC and Nike works? How much do they pump into SC athletics? He says Phil Knight appears to be giving a lot of money to Oregon players, directly or indirectly. And it appears to be affecting recruiting. Could it be time to leave Nike and move to a different apparel company? USC fans spend a lot of money buying apparel. Just over the bookstore on game day, you can see 20 cash registers open, the line out the door. I realize this money is a drop in the bucket to Nike and Phil Knight. But if they're only giving NIL deals to Oregon players and not other schools, it would be wise to switch to a company that would support SC players directly. Scott in Lake Arrowhead.
Yeah, I'm not really like an NIL guy. I leave that more to Gerard when we talk about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to leave Nike because of this.
So we don't know the details of the Nike. It's been going on a while. It wasn't a very good apparel deal. So I think when this comes through, we need to find out what's going on with it. My guess is USC will stay with Nike and they'll get a better deal. I don't think Nike's sponsoring Oregon players. I think this is a Phil Knight thing. Like, he went to Oregon, but he also supports Oregon State. Like, Oregon State, I think their baseball coach who'd won national championships was going to go to Notre Dame, and Phil Knight stepped up and paid for him. He also got his law degree at Stanford. He supported Stanford athletics. So I think he's a big Pac-12 guy. He's a big Oregon guy. And I think he's part of the NIL picture at Oregon. I don't think that's Nike per se, but I don't.
But people see Phil Knight and think it's just Nike and Phil Knight are like the same thing.
He's like 80 years old, and I think he's trying to win a championship at Oregon. So I think he's putting money into that kind of stuff. But it's not Nike per se. But I think that the apparel deal wasn't very good. And I thought it would have been up by now, and I haven't heard anything about it. I'll try to find out about. That's a good question. I'll try to find out about that when that deal is up. If you remember, UCLA signed a massive deal, and USC was in looks like a much smaller one. Their massive deal with Under Armour, and then that didn't work out. So they sued. I think they got paid. They sued Under Armour and got some money for that. And now they're with Air Jordan, I believe. Yeah. So I think they're to Nike, but it's like the Air Jordan brand. But yeah, I'm not a big expert on all that stuff either. As far as like Boulevard and everything, there was a flurry of NIL things that happened like a couple months ago, and I haven't heard too much since then. But yeah, it's funny. You see a place like Florida. I just saw an article today. They had the whole, debacle where you weren't paid. They were supposed to pay this quarterback $13 million and didn't pay. And well, they've revamped it, and they've already, they're back on. There was an article I think on The Athletic today talking about how they've revamped their NIL stuff. USC, I think, probably still behind the curve a little bit when it comes to NIL things, but there's definitely, irons in the fire. I just haven't heard much as far as going forward. Lincoln Riley was asked about it recently. He said, USC should be, at the top of this. I think he said they should be. I don't think USC is, but I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Chris?
No.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird situation. We'll see how much it's going to, impact recruiting and stuff going forward if they get things rolling. But USC's not been involved in the recruiting aspect of NIL. Like they're more about getting the players that are on campus compensation, not paying high school players. And that's what we're seeing from Oregon and Tennessee and Texas A&M. You're seeing a lot more of that. So USC, the plan that we heard was not to play in that space. Maybe that changes, but I don't know. M2 Agility says, LOL, how is USC behind the curve with NIL? Well, USC typically has been late to kind of react to some of this stuff, and you can interpret NCAA rules in a number of different ways. USC tends to be more conservative on those aspects of it. Like the NCAA says you can't use recruiting as an inducement. So USC is staying away from getting money through boosters or whatever to high school players. We're seeing other programs do that. Texas A&M signed the #1 class in the history of college football in 2022. Players got money to go to school at Texas A&M. So USC's not doing that. So as far as that,
they also won 4 games.
Yeah, it didn't really help win games. So, but USC can be really good with high-end deals. Someone put their media capital of the world. Yes, there's some really good things around USC, but doesn't mean. What do you need? UCLA's got stuff going right now. They have a mega booster that's has an NIL collective. You kind of need a mega booster to just say, screw it, I'm going to collect money from some of my rich friends and we're going to pay players. To my knowledge, there's not been this super billionaire guy that's been doing that at USC. So that's why, in my opinion, they'd be behind the curve in NIL a little bit. Even though the perception is the USC's just they paid Jordan Addison $3 million to go to USC. They did not. That did not happen. But that's what the rumor is. So it's funny, USC's kind of rumored to be throwing bags of cash at people, but I don't think that's really the case. All right.
Throw a bag of cash my way.
You would like that, Chris?
Moneybags Manford should run USC's NIL
for sure.
Then it'd be they'd be unstoppable.
Exactly.
That's my input. You ready to film our screen grab?
Oh yeah. What's the screen grab?
Let's be drinking out of our water bottles. You don't have anything in that, but we'll fake it.
Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. I gotta pop this up. All right. You ready? Nice. So that's our screen grab. Water bottle drinking.
Water bottle drinking.
Nice.
I spilled it all over me, so.
Way to go. Let's see. I think that's going to wrap things up. We do appreciate, all the people that were watching us live. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat. That's really cool.
And the donations we got.
And the donations,
How
for
much
sure.
did we get?
$32.
I can buy my lunch.
There you go. I'll buy you lunch. How about that? Dallas says, have you been to College Station? No wonder they all bailed. Used to work there too. No, yeah. They
None
lost a bunch of guys from that class. Paying high school players to go to school somewhere seems like it could work, but there's a lot of instances where we've seen it not work, where they didn't get the money they were promised, or they didn't stick around, or whatever. So yeah, but USC's not doing that. Just to be clear, what's going on. Yes, but thank you everyone for tuning in. We appreciate you coming on there. If you're listening on the podcasting platform, thanks so much for that. Hope to see you guys out there for the USC spring game. Should be a lot of fun. See what's going on with the team, and get some talk to other USC fans and get all this stuff out there. But for Chris Trevino, I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.